Hello. Hello. It's that time, Tuesday, 9 p.m., the new schedule. Welcome, everybody, to, I believe it's session 6 of our Building a React Native App. I'm actually going to ditch these. I don't need them. So what we're going to be doing today is continue with our app. We're going to be actually hooking into, hopefully, the camera API. If you were hanging out with us last time, we hooked it up to pull a image off of the device, so off the mobile device, or for web, upload an image, and then we were able to add that to our brew screen. I'll show that in just a second. But today we're going to try to actually hook it up to the camera and see if we can use it to take a picture. I'm not sure how that works with the simulator, but if I need to, I'll just bust out my phone and try it out here. I can just scan the barcode and try it out. So that's what we'll be getting into today. Again, I'm going to be sticking to this Tuesday 9 to 11 p.m. schedule. If anything changes, I'll be posting that on Twitter as well. I've been uploading all the videos on YouTube. Thanks to everyone who's watched the videos. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave some comments. Again, everything's open source, so you can get all that code on GitHub. You're going to find it all there. I'm just going to adjust the camera like that. So yeah, pull down the repo, check it out. Feel free to leave a PR or a request. If you like what you're seeing on YouTube, feel free to follow or subscribe. It's always great to see people watching the videos, and hopefully you get something out of it. I know these sessions are long, so if you're hanging around and following along, that's just great. But otherwise, just feel free to jump to the parts that are interesting. And again, I'm just here coding, and I'm sharing it with anyone out there. So happy for anyone that hops in and checks it out. So I mentioned it last time in my last video. I will be doing more one-off stuff following this app. I think we probably have 1 or 2 more sessions, including this one. So this one, maybe another one, or we'll see how far we want to get with this app before we jump into some one-off sessions. I think the first one's going to be using Gatsby.js to build a portfolio site. I'm going to mock one up, build that out. We talked about writing our own memwise function, which should be like a short little mini thing, as well as some other stuff. So some more one-off stuff to learn new things. I've been also thinking about trying out Rust, so maybe I'll do that here, another language. But anyway, today we're going to be continuing with our Brewbook app. Let me switch over to this so I can show what we're working on. So again, this is the app that we are attempting to build. We have it pretty close. It doesn't look like this, but some of the functionality is there, and we're going to be adding more today. So what I have here is I have my server starting up, and we can actually take a look at the current state of the app and do a little refresher on where we're at. So I'm going to open that up in the iOS simulator. So a recap from last time, we set up async storage. We got it working for both web and mobile. It was awesome. We styled things up a little bit. We added some more styles to the app, made things look really nice, really nice. You know, as nice as we can get them. And then we hooked up the camera roll API to actually pull off your device's camera so we could store an image of the brew along with our images. And the way we did that was we added it to our form, stored it in our RecoilJS atom. Again, we're using Recoil for state management here. That's kind of part of why I wanted to try this out. But you can see our awesome splash screen here while the app compiles. Woo! We added that. I think we added that 2 sessions ago. So definitely check that out. But then what else did we add? We got the image in there. We got it saving and rendering onto the main screen. And I think that's about as far as we got. So the plan today is to try to get a hook into the camera API to see what it's like to actually use the camera. I'm going to probably have to use my phone. I really don't know what's going to happen when I do it with the simulator. And I definitely don't know what's going to happen when I try to do it with web, or if it's even going to work. Maybe it turns on my webcam and ruins the stream. Who knows? So we'll try that out. Once we get that, we can add the ability to pick a style. So you can see here we've got our else persisted from last time. You can see if it's been a while since you've checked it out, we got a little styling action happening here. We got our brews on the bottom. We added these icons last time. That was pretty fun. Super easy to do with Expo. Again, all of this stuff. If any of the Expo devs check out this stream at any point, like thank you. Absolutely awesome. And maybe in one of these series we can contribute back to open source, maybe submit a PR. But fantastic. So it was super easy to do that. We have our brews here, our add a brew. We have our screen looking like this. Not quite here yet, but we'll get there. It's just a background, some different styling. We'll get there. But the important thing is the functionality. Again, our icon doesn't quite match, but we found this icon. It's good enough. I kind of made the other one up anyway. We're going to go with this. So we have it so that we can add a brew name. For example, the crisp, 6-point, style is Pilsner. We can add a picture now. It's pulling up our gallery. I don't have a picture of it, so what I'll do is I'll just quickly grab one. This is the fun part, searching around for pictures of it. So last time we picked Victory Summer Love. This time we're gonna pick the crisp by 6-point. Grab a quick picture of that. Should be plenty, it's great beer. There we go, this one's perfect. Click that, hold down the button, and the simulator is great. It works like an actual phone. Save the image there. I'm gonna go back over to my Expo app. Click that, there we go. Pick our new image, pops in there, add it, and there it is. Super cool. We did this last time, that's what we did. But if you noticed, when we hit add a brew, it didn't give us the option for the camera, right? And usually how we would want to use this is where we're enjoying this beer or this wine or whatever your catalog, maybe it's a book or whatever you're collecting. Maybe you collect fingerboards, I don't know. When you're doing it, you want to be able to take a picture of it. You don't want to have to take a picture in advance. It'd be nice, just like any app, if we could take that picture right here in our application. So that's what we're going to try to do. So let's jump in. All right. So I have here my code. You could see my server running on the bottom there. All right, I'm just going to adjust this. All right. So first thing first, I want to go to my Expo docs and check out and see if there's anything in here about leveraging the camera. I'm sure there is. So there we have the camera. We'll go with the latest SDK. Expo camera. So it adds an extra permission. So one of the things you'll see occasionally in the docs is permission stuff. That's basically just Expo is going to ask when you build the app. You remember if you've ever downloaded an app on the iOS store or the Google Play Store, it'll say what permissions it uses. So this is notifying us that, hey, adding this to your app will change the permissions required when someone downloads the device, which is good to know. So let's see. We have, if there's permission, what are we doing here? So we set the type, camera constants type back. Interesting. Only one active camera preview is supported currently. Using navigation, the best practice is to unmount any previously rendered camera components so the following screens can use camera without any issues. Good to know. Android devices can use one of two available camera APIs underneath. Okay, interesting. So let's see what this looks like. So they also have this thing where you can try the example out. We can click that and see what that looks like. It basically loads up a little thing here. So let's see what this looks like. Very cool. Can everyone see this? You cannot. My camera's in the way. Oh, let's go back to main here. Okay, so you should be able to see it now. So I'm going to say allow. Let's see if it turns on my camera. Flipability. Probably can't access this camera. But cool. Looks like it will do what we need to do. Looks like the way that we're initiating it is you give it this camera object, or I'm sorry, camera component. You have a style, type, and the type, this is our little flip button is changing our type from back to front. It's a basic toggle. So let's see what we can do with it. We also want to be able to capture the image, right? So let's see if there's a good way to do that. Let's see, we have type, on camera ready, on mount, use camera to API, take picture async. Let's see if there's a way to do, let's see, image. I think last time we called it picker, picking an image. Let's see if anything in there about using the actual camera. provides access to Systems UI for selecting images and videos from the phone's library or taking a photo with the camera. Oh, maybe it doesn't work on the simulator, or maybe it's another option we have to add. So let's check it out. Very cool. All right, so let's see how we can do that. Or taking a photo with the camera. Okay. Let's see how we can get it to allow us to take a photo. So we did the request camera roll permissions. Maybe we need to do the get camera permissions. That might be what we need to do here. So let's see. All right, so what we're gonna do is we have image picker, launch image library async. Okay, that's for picking that. Camera roll, very cool. Okay, so let's see what the options are. Media types, allow editing, multiple selection. Ooh, not yet, but that'd be awesome. Very cool. Aspect, quality, basics 4. All right. Launch camera. All right, so this might be what we want to do. So let's take a look at how we're currently using this. This is happening in our form. Add brew screen. We have request camera roll permissions async, and we launch image library async. So what we'd want to do is launch the camera. So let's see how we want to do that. Play System UI for choosing an image or a video from the phone's library. And this one, display the System UI for taking a photo with the camera, requires permission camera. All right, let's see. We can probably have 2 buttons. At some point we can click that and then have 2 buttons where they pick. Do you want to take the photo or do you want to use the camera roll? So let's try that out. All right, so let's first get the permissions. Let's do this. We'll change the name of this to camera, or we'll call it image library. Image library permission results, and we'll call this camera permission results. And we'll change this to request camera permission async. All right, so then permission result here, we want to do a check like this. We'll do the same check for the other type to see what happens there. So we'll do camera permission results. All right. And then what we'll do is, let's just try for now. Let's call the other API, and then we can always switch back. So let's call the other API and access the camera. So that was launch camera async. And I'm assuming it brings back the same data, but let's see. All right, let's go here. Let's cancel this. Let's refresh and see if that actually works. So I'm gonna dismiss that. I'm gonna go to my add brew. We'll add a new one here. Let's just do test. Brewery style is IPA, whatever. Good. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it wants access to the camera, so that's good. So we hit OK. Ooh, camera not available in simulator. So kind of what we thought. Let's see what happens on the web. Just because I'm curious as to what it's going to do. Maybe it'll take over my camera. Who knows? Let's see. All right. So while that loads up, let me also pull it up on my phone here. So it's kind of cool the way this works. Basically, you've seen that barcode. Here we're up. I can scan that with the Expo app and pull it up on my phone. But first, let's see what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and add brew name, crisp, 6-point, styles, Pilsner. Let's hit this. So interesting. Here it didn't ask for the camera. It's asking for an image to pick. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick like something to see. But yeah, very interesting that it didn't even prompt for the camera. Let's see what happens on the phone. So what I'm going to do is I pull up the Expo app here. I don't know if you can see that. I can hit scan QR code. Now it opens up my camera and I can scan the code. So I'm going to just scan this code here. And now you can see the app is loading up on my device, and I can actually debug it here as well. So pretty cool, super easy for developing and testing. And now I have it on my device. And I'll have access to my camera roll and can put some actual beers in here. So let's leave that there for a second for y'all to see. And once that loads up, we will try accessing the camera and see what happens. Now it would be cool if the camera, if when it pulls up the camera, it also gives you the option to go to the camera roll. If not, we'll just have to add a UI feature. Maybe it's like a dialogue to let them select, but we'll see. So it's still loading up. You can see the splash screen. It looks really nice on my phone. It actually came out a lot nicer on my actual device. I don't know if it can transfer, if you can kind of see with the camera, if the colors are right, but it really, really does look great on the device. Pretty excited about that. So let's see if that's loading, and we can actually track the progress of that here. So we can see we're at 87%. So once that hits, we'll try the camera API. Now, another thing we can do is just let's look at some, looks like we're up. So you can see here, there's the app in Android land. Looking pretty cool. So let's add a brew. I'm gonna just add, let's see, I'm gonna add a beer that I've had recently. Let me look through my catalog here. I have the Black is Beautiful by 3 Threes Brewing Company. It's an Imperial Stout. Let's add that. That was a good one. Okay, so brewer name is Black is Beautiful. Brewery is 3 Threes. Style is Imperial Stout. And you can see I have the same UI there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the camera button. It's asking me if I want to allow it access. I'm giving it access. It opened up my camera. Woo! There's no option for the camera roll though. I don't know if you can see that. There's no option there for the camera roll. So we probably are going to need a UI thing, or we need to check and see if there's an option. So first though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture. We'll just take a little selfie here. We'll get the different angle so y'all can see the other angle we got going on. All right, so we got a little selfie of the other wall there. Let's hit OK. Bam, it adds the thing. You can see I have a little overlap in my Android though with the button. I'll fix that in a minute. But so, all right, there we go. We were able to actually take a picture from the from the camera. Very cool. But now what I want to do is I want to see if I can actually get it to allow me to pick from the camera roll or the camera. We should also handle that exception, right? We're not really going to be working with the simulator. Like as users when it's released, it's not going to be that big of a deal if there's an exception because no one will ever really see it. But it's a good exception to handle. So what we're going to do is first we're going to go and look at our documentation and see what we can do for deciding between using the camera and using the actual image roll or library or camera roll as they call it. Okay, so we have the launch image library async. Whether to show a UI to edit the image after it's picked. Very cool. On Android, users can crop and rotate the image. On iOS, they can crop it. So this might be good. I think I'm going to add this and see what this does. This could be really cool. Let's go ahead and allow editing. So for that goes in as an option object to the actual function. So we'll go ahead and pass that. Cool. Let's see what else. Quality. That's pretty interesting. Aspect. Allow multiple selection. We already saw that. We're not going to do that. But we want to see. Okay, so here's launch camera async. Same thing. Allow editing. Media type. Images. So I don't know if there's a way to actually. I mean, this is great. It's allowing us to select from the camera or select from the camera roll, but we don't have a way to. We need to basically build the way to select between the two of them, it looks like. Which is fine. It shouldn't be too bad. We can use a dialogue. That's one common thing. A lot of other apps will have like two buttons. Like one is like the picture of a, take a picture, or they'll show like the image, like a picture, Polaroid or whatever. We can show that. So let's do something like that. But first I want to see what this actual like options to allow for editing is. So I'm going to actually change this back to launch camera roll async. Now I want to see what that looks like. It's interesting. Request camera roll permissions and then launch image library async. The names can be a little bit confusing, but no worries. All right. So let's see what that looks like. What the actual allowing us to edit an image looks like. That's kind of cool. So we'll dismiss. We'll add a brew. I'm just going to pick the same one. I want to see what it looks like. Very cool. So it lets you crop it. That's awesome. And then on Android, supposedly it lets you do a little more. Let's see what it lets you do on Android. So I'm just refreshing my app here. There we go. I'm going to pick another beer. So it pulled up my camera roll there. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick one of my beers. I'll pick the Dreamsicle. And you can see there it's propped up a cropper, and I can rotate it. I can crop it. Pretty neat. Look, I can rotate it. I can flip it horizontal, vertical, whatever I want. Super cool. So that's pretty neat. I love that that's built in, and that's a really, really nice feature, especially if you want to enforce square images. I don't know if we want to do that. We probably do because we make them circular, but that's a really awesome option. Okay, so now we know we need some kind of UI for picking which image, and maybe we want to design that in Figma first. But what I would do is I would just check Expo and see if there's sort of like a dialogue we can use. Picker. Let's see, this might be what we need. Okay, prompt, dialogue, picker. Let's see if we can view what this looks like. I'm interested to see, renders the native picker component. What is the picker component? Let's see if we can look it up. Okay, so here they have, it's deprecated, use the community one. Okay, that's fine. But it looks like, it's just a, that's funny looking. Let's see what it looks like. Is it really just a drop down? Nah, yeah, we don't want that. That's more for like select. We don't want that. Although they had the dialogue. Show modal dialogue, that's the default. We don't really want that. Let me see what other things we have here. I'm just clicking here, image manipulator. This sounds interesting. Lets you rotate an image. Modify images stored on the local file system. That's pretty interesting. I do want to try. Let's see. Those are the media types. We want to make sure that the media type's images only, actually. We don't want videos, so we should probably do that. What is the default? Default's images. Okay, good. So default's images, so no need to mess with that at all. All right. Let's see if we can just have like a pop-up. Modal, like a modal. Is there anything for that? Let's search. Modal. Can we see what this looks like? Let's see. Then consider using top level navigate. Oh, we could use our React navigation navigator. So when you click it, it has a thing pop up from the bottom, lets you pick what kind. Or we could just put it in. We could put it right here. Have one here for adding an image like this, one for taking an image. But I think we can easily show a pop up. So let's just pick. Let me search for pop up or something. Alert, no, an alert's gonna be like that's not what we want. Pop-up menu, what does this look like? So just like a basic, okay, so you can put where you want the menu to go. There's popover, interesting. Could do a popover. Let's see what else we have. This is the fun part, trying to figure out like the best tool for the job here. React Native pop-up dialog. This might be a good one. So this looks like something interesting. I think we could probably go simpler. Let's see. I think dialogue is what I'm looking for. Something like dialogue. Let's see. Picker, we said no. We could try a picker. I don't like the idea of like that scrolly, like when it has that full scroll thing going on. But let's see what else. Let's go back to our components list. Features. I just want to go to the docs. Where are they? All right. Documentation. So let's see. API. All right, so here's the SDK. Let's see. Battery, camera, contacts, crypto, date, time, file system, image manipulator. We already saw that. Image picker. Map view, notifications, picker, random, reanimated, task manager, video. Okay, let's see. So let's go back to picker. Let's go check this out again. Okay, yeah, so this is like the scrolly thing. Not really what we want. So let's just make a dialog. What we'll do is we'll have a pop-up appear. We'll just do it with plain React Native. Nothing fancy for now. We could use like a stack navigation, but let's just have it appear above the page, on top of everything, absolutely positioned. And we'll just have two options, almost like a modal. So if we were to search for modal, and we can leverage some modal component, we'll do that. Yeah, so let's try this. So let's see, example. So here we have a modal, whether it's visible or not, an animation type, on when it's requested to be closed, on when it's visible, if it's transparent, and And then it looks like they have some presentation things. I guess the modal content goes inside the modal. So let's try it. We can even create a separate component for this. But so what we'll do is we'll say, let's create a new component. We'll call it image picker modal import. We'll go ahead and copy over some of our imports. We know we're going to use them. And we will import our components. So we'll pull from themed. That was what we decided last time, was pulling from themed. So we're going to pull that in. And let's create our basic component. So we have our constant image picker modal. It's going to take some props. And we will export this. All right. And so basically what we're going to do is we want to copy this. So we're going to have some basic state. We'll just kind of steal that. All right. And we can even copy this stuff for now. Let's copy the basic modal. I'm not going to copy the inside because I'm going to change the inside. So what we're going to do is we will return modal. We're going to wrap the modal in a view. And we need to import the modal from wherever we need to import it from. And so we can find that out here. It looks like modal is just part of what? It's not telling me here. Let's see if I search it here. It doesn't say where it comes from, and I don't see it on the side. Maybe it just comes from React. Ah, okay, so it just comes from React Native. All right, let me just check here for something. All right, let's go with modal from React Native. So that's just going to come, if we want to get it from React Native, we can just do this. There we go, pulled in React Native. Oh, what up, Noah? Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, it's been, the app's come a pretty long way since the first got started. So hopefully you think it looks pretty good. So right now we're adding a modal so that we can show whether or not to pick from the camera or to take a picture. So we'll leave this alert. That's fine just for now because we're just testing. So we'll just import that. We can always get rid of it. And so now we'll just have some content. Again, we're going to also import style sheet because we want to be able to style our component here. And so here we're going to do const styles equals style sheet dot create a basic container one, and in here we will just do a standard flex one. We will also, well, actually since this will technically be contained within our other page, we don't need to have the view because the other page is going to show this. We just want the modal here. We still going to need styles for the modal though. Inside here we are going to have view. And for now, I'm just going to put 2 buttons. We'll style them later. Pacao, what are we building here? What up? I like the Fortnite #1. Oh, nice. We got Matt in here too. Clam Watson. Oh, I mean, what's your name? That's not your real name. Clam. We got Clam, Pacao. What's going on? Building the craft beer cataloging app, which you'll see in a second. Right now, I'm going to build the modal to let you pick from choosing a camera, image from your camera, or to take a picture. So for now, I'm just going to start with basic buttons. We're not going to put icons yet. We'll do that in a second. We just want to make sure things work. So for this, we'll do touchable opacity. We'll import that from React Native gesture handler. And these are your basic buttons. And then inside here, we're going to have a text. And here we'll say pick from camera. And here we'll do take a picture. All right, and then we'll style these in a little bit, but for now, let's just, let's pull this. This has to be a separate button. All right, so for on click of this, we're just gonna, for now, I'm just gonna put on click, on press actually is what it is. We're just gonna say, maybe alert something, just to see if we can get this thing working here. So for this, what we'll do is we'll just say alert opening will open camera roll. All right. Copy that, and we'll just say will open camera. All right. And so let's try rendering this and see what this looks like. So first what we want to do is we'll give a little style to this view here. Spam the toad to help Tom code. Ooh, I like it. The code toad. Very cool. Whoa. Style sheet. No, we want styles. Dumbledore's got style. All right. Usually we do styles, I think, right? I forget. What's this pattern here? Yeah, styles. So we'll do styles. All right. So we have this modal component. We actually don't need to handle state here. We're going to pass this in from the parent. So the parent's going to render the modal. So what we can do is we can actually have, well, we could put this in an atom, but I don't think it's kind of overkill. So what we'll do is we'll have this passed in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a type, because we're dealing with TypeScript here, and I'm going to say image picker modal props. Whoop. And so we'll have basically the modal visible. And that's going to be a Boolean. We'll take it here. All right. And then what we're going to do is we will have eventually handlers for these that will pass up. But for now, let's just leave it at that. All right. Let's import that from here. So we're just going to import from /. What screen? We're in the brew screen, so we should be able to go up to components. Oh, sorry about that. Components, and we need the image picker modal. So let's see if this will work. So here we'll need state of whether or not the modal is showing. So for that, we'll use new state here. Say modal image picker modal showing, and then we'll have our setter set image picker modal showing. We'll start it out as false, and then what we'll do is when you click that add image button here, where is it? Right up here. There's add brew. Here's our handle add brew function. And up here is our handle click add image. So on this, we're going to show the modal. So for now, we're just going to disconnect the actual functionality of picking the image and just show this modal for now. So let's go here. All right, so here's our code. Again, let me close this and let me close this. We don't need this open. All right, so here's our code for handling showing the image. We're just going to set the state to show the modal for now. So what we'll do is we'll just comment this part out. And we'll plug that back in, but first we just want to show this modal. So what we'll do is we'll call set image picker modal showing to true. And now of course we need to have the image picker modal. So we can throw that. Basically we just want to throw it inside our view. So what I'll do is I'll throw it right up top here. image picker modal, and then we have, I believe the modal visible was what we were using, modal visible. And so our prop is image, what was it? Image picker modal showing. So let's change it to that. So this is going to be a Boolean, true or false. It's going to tell us whether it's showing. It's going to start out false. As soon as we click that button, it's going to switch over to true and should show our modal. Let's see what it looks like. Cancel that. Click that. Nice. Look at that. Perfect. Looks great. Ship it. No, but at least we have the two things here. So what we'll do is we'll pull that down, just style that a bit so that we can actually see stuff. That'd be great. Okay, so what we'll do there is we will display flex, justify content center, and we will align items center. All right. Let's see what that looks like now. All right, let's see if we can click it. We'll open camera roll. We'll open camera. Cool. All right, so there's our modal. I do want to make it look a little better though. I want to have it have some like transparency to it and kind of have like a container. And also we want to be able to close it, right? So we want to have that close functionality. So if we look at the Expo docs, close that, close that. All right, there we go. We have some stuff here. Animation type slide, visible. So let's add some of this and see how this modifies it. So let's go back to our modal component. We'll open up our add brew screen here, or we have our modal here. Let's add, so we have slide, we have transparent true. And so what we want to do is kind of have it contain like a little pop-up on top of the screen. So let's see what we can do there. So one thing they've done here is they've added a margin. That'll make it so that it doesn't pop up. We could try that. Let's see what else they've done. Any other? Oh, good. So we have some presentation style stuff we can do. Full screen covers the screen completely. Page sheet covers portrait with view centered. That's kind of cool. Form sheet covers narrow with view centered, only on larger devices. Over full screen covers the screen completely but allows transparency. Default is set to over full screen or full screen depending on transparent property. Interesting. Let's see what page sheet does. So there's presentation style prop controls how the modal appears, generally on large devices such as iPad or plus size iPhones. Okay, so this is generally for bigger devices. Status bar translucent, this is pretty cool. Determines whether your modal should go under the system status bar. Ooh. Determines whether your modal will fill the entire view. Setting this true will render the modal over a transparent background. That's what we want, actually. So we have that set to true, I believe. Let's try adding a container view for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this container here. I'm just going to change this to content container. And then I'll add a second one for the container. And let's get rid of that. And what we'll do is we'll make this flex 1. And we'll add some margin like they had as well and see what that does. Let's just add general margin of 24 pixels. See what that does. All right. Awesome. Is there an end goal to recognize beer from labels? Whoa, that would be awesome. No, I don't think we're going to do that here, but could do it. We'd use a barcode scanner. That would be pretty sweet. Maybe we will have that feature. That's an awesome feature. Maybe one day we'll just pull up, just give the barcode scanner and try and see what's in there. I don't know if we'll hook it up to this, but that could be cool. Or use the camera to take a picture of the label. That'd be awesome. You need some image recognition there. There's probably an API we could do that. Maybe we could do Google Image, but definitely out of scope for this. But awesome question. I like what you're thinking. All right, so let's see what we got now. Ooh, so let's save that. Let's open up this. Move this over here. Click this. We're gonna refresh that. All right, let's go to our add brew. Whoa, look at that. Flew up to the top, but pretty cool. Let me try getting rid of this here. Put this back here. See what happens to that. Okay, so that's what happens with the Flex 1. So we don't want that. And when I click this, it's up there. It's interesting. It's sitting on top. That's why I can't click anything. I don't know if you noticed that. As soon as I click this, you can see it goes up top and I can't click. So what we'll do, let's see what this does. Let's refresh that. Oh, you saw it fly back down. Okay, cool. So it goes up there. Let's use our inspector and we can see what happens. We should also be able to do this on web. If I pull up my web version, go to home screen, refresh it. Let's see what it looks like on web. Ah, so the modal, the modal on web just shows up over here. Let's look at what it's actually doing. What is it actually rendering? So it's actually rendering it in line in web, which isn't ideal, but we can easily solve for that. So let's go back to our app here and let's get this modal looking good. So let's see what they were doing here for some inspiration. All right, so they have some basic styling around their container to kind of get their container to align things nicely. They have this view, this center view with Flex 1 that's centering everything, which is what we're doing here. Set it to Flex 1, and we'll move this stuff here into the centering view. And then for the content container, let's leave that blank for now until we figure out what we want to do with that. So let's see what that looks like. Refresh there. Dismiss that. All right, so it's floating up there. So we just need to make sure we can bring that down. So we have our margin top. Let's see what else they got going on. So on the outside, they have the centered view, which is doing all the stuff we're doing. Flex is justifying it centered. And then their modal view has a margin, a background color, a border radius to kind of get it to move things around. So let's do something similar. Let's have the margins, what's going to move it down from the transparent view. If we put Flex 1 and we give it a background of, say, like white, it would fill up the whole screen. So we don't want to do that. So what we'll do is, let's say, give it a background color so we can see it and know what we're dealing with. I'm just going to give it my favorite color for now. We'll give it a margin. I wonder if we could actually give this padding instead of margin, which would be nice. But let's see. Let's just try it with margin first of 24. And let's see where this ends up. Now we should be able to see that background in orange. Cool. So there's our thing there. Let's inspect it. We can use this inspector. See what we're dealing with here. So here you can see we have our touchable opacity. There's our image picker modal. There's the button. Let's see if we can click out here. Oh, let's re-render that. Dismiss that. Get rid of this inspector for a second. Click add brew. There we go. Pop that open. Now we can show our inspector again. Expect to find at least one React renderer. Interesting. Let's do this. Let's move that down a bit. Let's see what we got here. So what they have going on is for their centered view, that's to center it. Margin 20. Padding, they have a bunch of padding on it. The elevation, that's how elevated it is off the main. That adds like a type of shadow to it. A button, text style. And so that's being applied to this centered view. So they have centered view on both of these to center it, and then modal view. So let's center this. Let's do justify content, center, align items, center, keep our background color as tomato. Let's get rid of the inspector. All right, now let's do this. Let's make this bigger. We're gonna make it half flex, so there we have, takes up half the screen. We'll do even less than that. We'll do like, 0.35, had it take up even less. And then we will want to move that down. So what we'll do is let's see, we have our content container. We got to give this a style of container. Container. All right. Let's reload that. So now that's our container, so it's taking up too much space. So we don't want it to use that unless we position that absolutely. So if you look here, what they're doing here with their view, they actually have just this generic view that's holding our modal, which is what we have with the margin. So we could probably get rid of this. We weren't actually using it. See what this looks like. Oh, let me refresh that. Let's go back here. All right, let's see if this will allow us to do what we need to do. Okay, cool. So we have the modal. We don't actually need that outer view, but we do want the modal to be moved down a bit because it's a little too high up. So let's see if we can do that. So there's a few ways we can do this. We can create one view that's of the whole height. That's like that transparent view. And then inside, put that little orange view. So let's do that. So for that, we do view, style. We'll make this the container. All right, so now the idea is this container is going to be the whole height, and then we'll have the little one inside it. So let's see what this looks like. So container, again, we have to add back our container. And what we'll do is we'll have this one be flex 1, and this will also center everything. So let's mess around and see what this looks like. Okay, so we have the whole thing there, but you can see it's got that white background there. So let's see if we can do background color transparent, or we could do I think what we want here is color. Well, actually, what we want, it was already transparent, so what we want to actually do, let me try something really quick. Let's try this. Just want to see how far we can move this thing. Will move it down. All right, cool. So what we can do, I think this has to be a string. I don't remember. Let's see. Let's refresh that. So we can give it a percentage margin top. Okay. Now let's just up that. Cool. Okay. We'll get a little better looking. So let's do padding. We actually want, let's do a margin of, I think it's horizontal. Yeah, we'll do a horizontal margin of 24. All right, and then elevation will give us that shadow. So let's use elevation. Elevation 5. I think that's what they were using, which would be nice. Let's look at what that looks like. Pretty good. Let's see. There should be elevation 5, Shadow. Ah, right, we need shadow. So let's just steal this. Classic. And then we can get rid of our tomato. We can just use something like white. Or in our case, since we have the theme, we can use our colors. So again, we have our colors. We have that background. So we can import that. So let's do that. Import colors from constants, colors, and then we also want to import use from our hooks. We have use color scheme. We want to import use color scheme. I think it's just a default import if I remember correctly. And so is colors. And then basically all we need to do is, if you look here at our brew list, or I think our brew item has it as well. No, it doesn't. I think our brew list does though. We have our color scheme. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna say const color scheme, the code toad. I still love the code toad. We'll use color scheme. And now what we can do is down here, we can say that our color, we can apply it actually, we'd want to apply it directly to this. And we would say colors. And normally if we were passing arguments to the style sheet, so you can actually pass like an argument to create this, then we could pull in the actual color scheme. But in this case, since we're not going to use it as a function, we'll just do this for now. Background. So we actually don't need to pull this in. All right, so let's save that. I just formatted it. Cool. So now we have a basic thing here, but what I really want also is to have kind of like it'd be nice to have like a style of some kind of translucentness to that, but we'll add that later. Let me add more of a margin here to get it more centered. And we can also use the height. We could also use the view height to do this. But for now, let's just stick with this. So I'm refreshing. Cool. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to have two options. We're going to have the button for picking from the camera and taking the picture. So you can see here, these just pop up the alerts. That's not going to be any use to us. So let's go ahead and split this into two buttons. One for the camera, one for the camera roll. So the way we can do that is we can first, let's add some handlers for each of these. So on press, we're going to call a handler that is something like handle click camera roll or handle click take picture. So we'll pass those in as properties. So I'm passing one called handle click use camera roll, and that'll be a function. And the signature for that for now will just be this. And then we'll have the same thing, handle click use camera. And that'll be the same type. And we'll just pull those out here. And then we'll change the type once it helps us infer it. Click use camera roll, handle click use camera. And so for this one, pick from camera, we'll change this to handle click use camera roll. And we'll change this to handle click use camera. Awesome. Now we need to pass these functions. So what we'll do is from our add brew screen, we will pass, and you can see it's alerting us now because we're not passing the required functions. So we will pass them. Handle click use camera roll. And we haven't written this yet. We'll write this in a second. Handle click use camera roll. And we'll call that handle use camera roll. All right, so now we have to make these functions. So we will just put these up here with where we had this logic. So we can do two things. We can repurpose this logic. A lot of it's the same. We can just pick which thing we're waiting for, whether we're waiting for the image picker async library or the camera roll. So what we'll do is we can say, we'll change this to handle add image, and we'll create those two new functions. So we'll say const, let's make this a const too, just to be concise. So we'll create the handle use camera and handle use camera role. And what we'll do is we'll just pass in the correct function that we want to use based on the function. You'll see that in a second. So basically what I mean by that is when you call handle use camera, we're going to call handle add image, and we're going to pass it image picker dot launch image library async. And so what this is going to do is it's going to accept a function, and it's going to accept that function that we need to use. And we're going to call that image picker function. And we'll type this in a second because it's going to be interesting to type this. And what I mean by type it is not type it, but add a type to it. So for handle use camera role, we're going to do the same thing, except we'll call handle add image, and we'll pass it launch camera async. All right, so you can see that this is complaining now because it's saying image picture function is declared, but its value is never read, and it has to type any. We'll give it a different type in a second, but let's actually use it. So one thing we could do is we could look at the type of this. So this is a function that takes options, image picker. So this is its function signature here. So it's a function, it takes options, right, and returns a promise. Ooh, sorry. Let me pull that back up. Returns a promise of image picker result. So we need to take a function that takes options, which is this, and returns a promise image picker result. So what you can do is we can copy this, and we can say, we can make a type up here. We could probably also pull this type from the actual library. Let's see. So here we're saying we are a type that takes options, image picker options or undefined, and returns a promise of image picker result. And so I'm going to use that type here. So that doesn't complain. This is still complaining, but if you remember, this was always complaining. So that's fine. And we also now just have to use our new function. All right, so now, again, what's happening here is we are creating two handlers. Handle role J, yo, what kind of stream is this? Not that kind of stream. Handle use camera role and handle use camera. And basically what they do is they delegate to another function. Basically when you call that, it's just gonna call handle add image and pass it the correct image loading function that we wanna use. So we've reduced our boilerplate code here and just made it a bit functional where we're passing functions to use. We're still requesting both permissions, which we could probably avoid. We could request those permissions within the actual handle function. So let's do that. So image library permission result will handle within here. That now makes this an async function. Same thing here. And camera permission result is here. And we'll also add the logic for handling each individual permission within its handler function, which makes sense. Cool. So we've reduced a little boilerplate and we kept the logic for how we're handling images in one spot. So let's try this all out and see how it works. Again, the buttons don't look great. We'll make them better. So, oh, another thing. We want to show these this button thing, we also probably at some point want to be able to like close it by clicking away. Can't find variable handle, click add image. Let's just find that. That's here. That's because we changed the name of it, because we're no longer going to do that. Now when you click this, instead of calling handle click add image, which was I guess showing the image modal, we're going to change that to here. And we'll just call this. All right. Now let's go ahead and load up our thing here. Click this. I'm going to click pick from camera. Bam, camera roll pops up. Pick a sweet brew. Choose it. Bam. Modal's still there though. We got to get rid of the modal. Also, I wonder if the modal does not currently go away when we're clicking away. We want it to do that. Also, when we click back or swipe, we probably want it to go away. On iOS, there's no back, so you should be able to close it maybe with just clicking away. And on Android, you should be able to close it by going back. So that's easy to get to close at least. To do that, we'll just, in our handle add image, set brew image loading, we'll also just close that modal. So what we'll do is we show the loader, we hide the loader, we'll hide the modal, and that's just set image picker modal showing to false. And so let's try that again. Let's refresh. All right, let's dismiss that. Add brew here, pick from camera roll, choose a beer, choose, and bam. We want that to go away first though, so what we'll do is we'll get rid of that up here before the loader even. So let's try that again, see if that looks a little bit better. And then we'll style that thing a little bit. Pick from camera. Ah, sorry, I picked camera, so it doesn't work on the simulator. Let me pick the camera roll. Add brew. Pick from camera. Oh. Interesting. Let me refresh. Wonder what is happening there. So it makes sense that take a picture is broken. But let's open up the debugger and see what's happening to that. So I can debug it, and what's going to happen is it's going to open up this here. And with this, what I can do is I can open up the inspector, and we can see what's going on. So let me click here, pick from camera. So something's failing. I wonder if it's just getting interrupted by this. Let's try something different. Let's move this to back here and see what could be causing that. Refresh that. All right. Click add brew, click this, pick from camera. Okay, so it worked that time. So what we want to do is figure out what's going on with this. Oh, I know what's happening. It's causing a re-render because we're changing the image picker modal. So what we'll do is we'll just stop showing it at this phase here. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. All right. Add brew from camera. Ah, still there. Not going to work. We definitely want to get rid of that earlier. So let's see what we can do about that. Because one thing we can do is we can get rid of it before we call handle add image, which might be one way to do it. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, so that interrupts it, which is very interesting. I wonder if it's because it's causing a state change. So let's see if we can move that here and see what's going to happen. Just to see. Or I wonder if it's because we're actually not calling. Let's see. Let's see if this makes it any better. All right. Interesting. I wonder why that's happening. This is a very interesting bug. Okay, so let's do this. We have that function happening asynchronously. This is causing an issue. Let's see what's going on here. So basically this is going to be causing a state change. When we call handle click add image, it's setting it to true. Requesting permission. Let me see if it's just part of the way this flow is working that's causing an issue. Let's find out. It might be because it's interrupting between the camera permissions, which are async. Let's find out. Yeah, so it just doesn't like that at all, which is very weird. Okay. I think I know what we can do though. Let's get rid of that. And we can make our image picker modal showing based on whether that and, oh, let's leave it at that for now. Let's get it back to where it's actually working. Oh, you know what it is? It's because the image picker shows up in a modal. And if you remember, there was a warning about dismounting a component that uses a modal before showing another modal. So it could be that, which would be interesting. No, because it's still there. Let's see. I wonder what we could do about this. So we're done using it. Oh, you know what it is? It's because the handler is being called by the modal, and the modal is getting unmounted. That's likely what it is. So if it's getting unmounted, then its handler is not being called or finished because it's async. So one thing we may have to do here, this is an interesting one, is we could do a few things. The modal itself could hide its content, and then before it's unmounted, it feels a little weird, but it might solve our purpose. So let's try that first. So basically what that means is we would have a separate function here. On press use camera, on press use camera roll. Each of these would call their appropriate functions. So for example, this will call this. And this one would call this. But before it does that, we will set some state to hide the actual modal. So for that, what we'll do is we'll say, we're going to use state here. Say hide content. We use state and we'll set it to false for now. And we will say that this is not hide content. All right. And when we call these, we will first call set content hidden to true. This way it happens within the mounted modal component. And And we'll change these to on press camera roll, on press use camera. All right, let's see if that will actually work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this to actually hide and show the content. And then now what we can do is in here, we can actually call that set modal showing. So we'll call this down here after handle add image. We can actually call it here, so it's only called in one place. All right, so let's see what that looks like. There's our splash screen. All right, let's see. Hopefully this will do it. All right, perfect. All right, and looks like we cannot interact, which means that our modal is still there. So we need to figure out how to actually destroy that modal. So it's not actually getting destroyed. Oh, well, we put it to true. That's why. We got to put it to false. Let's try that again. Hopefully this will work. Let's see. Reload. Downloading JavaScript bundle. All right, let's see. We're going to hit the add button, pick from camera, pick a beer here. Runtime's not ready for debugging. Oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to take that off. Stop remote debugging. We don't need that. Dismiss. Pick from camera. Pick a beer. Great. And we're back in action. All right. So that worked. Now let's see if it works with the camera, which we're going to try on my phone. So I'll pull up Expo again. I'm going to go into our app. Bam, loading screen. Bam, app. There's the thing I added before with the nice picture. So here I'm going to go and hit add brew. I got my modal. I'm going to click take a picture. It is not working. It says modal. When I hit the back button, it does close the modal, which is kind of cool. But yes, actually clicking this is not doing anything. So let me figure out what's going on here. Let me refresh the app here. And let me also add some styling to those buttons, just so they're a little bit bigger and easier to deal with. So for that, what we'll do is we'll just give these a style. Style equals, actually we'll put it on both of them. So what we'll do is we'll say style equals styles.button, and button doesn't exist, so we'll add it. And we'll give it a height of, let's say, 32, a width. You know what we can do? We can actually just, since this is display flex, we'll just make these each flex 1 and see what that looks like. Refresh that, dismiss that, go to add brew. Okay, so they're huge because they're taking up the entire amount here. But we don't need them to do that. But you can see it's kind of cool. So what we'll do is we will make them take up flex 1. So what we'll do here is we'll have them take up the full width. So what I want to see is if this modal's here, all right, let's give them a height and see what that looks like. I just want to see why it's popping out of that frame there. And it's still only the text that's clickable. So we actually want to make it bigger than that. So what we'll do is we will give it a width of 100%. And we'll actually change this to use Flexbox in a second to lay this out, but let's see what this looks like. Cancel that. Reload that. All right, let me see here. Let me just pull up my add brew screen and see what we do with this button. So for this button, we used touchable highlight. So we could do that. I mean, it's not much different. And what do we do for this button? We used padding. Yep, I think padding is what we're going to do to get some actual height there. Let's do that. Padding 24. Let's add a border so we can see it. We'll do the same thing here so we can see it. And then we can always make these, since we're reusing these, we can always make these common, or we can make a common button component. But this button will probably look different since it's just a picker for two options. So we'll see. Cool. All right, so it looks kind of funky, but for now, we'll just stick with that. We can get rid of this width. We don't need that. And we can add an icon to make it look nicer. We have the picture of the camera and the picture. So to do that, what we'll do is we will go to our icon list. We have Expo. Again, if you remember, we have the icons. And it has that awesome icon search that we can use. We can search the vector icons through this directory. And so we wanted to filter, we wanted to use material community icons. And we want an picture. Or let's say, instead of picture, let's say image. Perfect. So for this, we'll use this image. And it tells you exactly how to import it, so we'll do that. And then how to use it. So we'll put that right in the button. And then we'll do the same thing, but we want a different icon here. We want like a camera. So for that, we'll go back, search for camera. And maybe they even have camera add. Let's see. They have camera, so that'll probably be pretty good. Camera refresh, camera plus. That's probably good. Yeah, let's use that. Camera plus. So let's see what that looks like. And we'll probably have to make the icons big. All right, let's see what these look like. Cool. So there's our icons. Awesome. Let's make them a bit bigger. So easy. It's so great how easy it is to do all this stuff. Pulling these things. And then let's make our button flex direction column or row, because remember by default in React Native it's column. All right, and now let's have these things flex 1. Okay, so they're taking up that huge amount of space, and that's probably because of this horizontal margin. So let me just delete that really quick. No, sorry, not the horizontal margin. Let me delete this really quick. This is going to make them be not transparent, right, in the whole screen. Let's just see what this looks like. Just so I can see. Okay, so that's giving it that. We have our flex, so this is what's modifying the size. So what we could do is, let's say flex, let's make this 4. Reload that. All right. Okay. another thing we want to do is we want, okay, so we have padding there. That's there. Let's change this to, let's do height 50%. Let's see what that takes up. And let's get rid of this. Okay, so let's see what we're dealing with here. Looks like our flex direction row. Let me refresh to make sure we're dealing with the latest. So I want to just put it inside here. So let me see why it's being so interesting. I think it's because of the way that the transparent view is set up behind it. So we want these things to just have basically split the difference. So what we could do, one thing we could do is we could have just these two buttons be populating this here. So for example, what I would do is, so right now this container has flex 0 forward so that it's smaller, so that it's that smaller amount. But what I could do, let me just see something really quick. So that makes it really big. All right, so we don't want that. And justify content center, align item center, background color, margin horizontal, that's putting it in, margin top, that's what's bringing it down, its elevation's 5. And then on these, we have a border color, align item center. Let's get rid of that. Nice, and what we'll do is we'll justify content. Well, actually, we want the align item center. That's gonna bring them there centered. So that looks good. Let's get rid of this height and actually figure out how we can actually style these things. Okay, so now they're in the middle. So here we have line item center. Let's get rid of this and this. Great. All right, so there's our two buttons. And now what if we do? Huh. Weird. All right, let's get rid of that. That didn't work out. So there's our two buttons. And so let's go back to having our height of 50%. All right. What happens if we do our height of 100%? Very strange. Very strange indeed. Well, let's see. For now, this might do. What we want to do is just see what's going on with these. Let me inspect them. Oh, weird too. So if I click here, that was interesting. So when I clicked outside of the zone, interesting. So something weird is happening there. Let's get rid of this. I'm going to give it a background color so we can see what we're dealing with. Again, I'm going to go with something basic like blue. And I want to see what's going to happen now. All right, so let's dismiss that, add brew. Okay, so there's our two buttons. They're taking up this much space. I'm going to inspect them. Click that, great. You can see the margin. Interesting, okay. You can see how much height it's taking up. So then you can also see this view here is within here. All right, so let's see how this actual modal is working. So we can see the margin, that's what's being applied there. That's the 60% and the other margin horizontal. I want to see what would happen if I did this instead. What if I did Justify content center. I want to see what's going to happen now, because I want to try to put that content in the middle there. Let's get rid of the inspector. Good. Okay, there we go. That's what we needed. So now we have the centered content. I wonder if we actually need this anymore. Okay, we do need that. That's what's bringing that down. So that brings that down. Let's look at that again. All right, so there's that. And now we can actually probably make these bigger. Say flex. Let's refresh that and see what this looks like. All right, so we'll just give them, we'll actually give them a height of, say, I don't know, 64. Let's see what happens now. Cool, so that'll do for now. And then let's get rid of our background color. And then let's move things over a bit. So what we can do for that is we just want to pad things a bit. So we could do some stuff within here. One thing we could do is just space things evenly. That doesn't look that great. So what we'll do is we'll just add some basically padding around stuff. So we can do space around. That doesn't look too great either. We'll kind of just want to do it to the left, but maybe add some padding around each of the things. So what we can do is we can say button image, give that its own styling, and button text, give that its own styling. And so for that, what we'll do is we'll just say padding horizontal is like 8. And let's apply that to our image here. Well, actually, first let's put some padding on the button. Padding horizontal, 24. Let's see what that looks like first. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then we can just do button text, put some padding on that. And for that, we'll do padding horizontal 8 and pass this to the button text. So style equals styles dot button text. All right, so that's looking much better. It could look even a little better. We just had to attach this to this as well. Cool. All right, so that should do it for now. When we click it, we can see it's doing that. That's pretty good. We can make that font a little bigger. That'd be nice. So we'll just do font size 18. Nice. All right, so that should do for now. And then the background could be a little bit more, I don't know, like shadowed. We can change our shadow a bit, or we can add some modifiers. Let's see if we change this to something like 10. Let's see if it actually raises, or if we have to do that manually. I think that's just where it sits, like the Z index essentially. Yep, so then what we can do, let's see if we did like, I think for now that's okay. We'll eventually maybe add like a gray background to this. Let's see what that would look like. That's probably an option for our actual modal. Let's keep this for now. So we have pick from camera, camera roll, choose. Cool. And let's see if it, I wanted to see again if it worked on my phone here. So I'm going to shake it. That'll bring up the menu to refresh things, reload them. It's loading up there. And now let's see if it'll work. I got my modal. I'm going to choose take a picture. But yeah, no, neither of the buttons seem to be working for me. So what I want to do is debug it. It might be that I already have a debugger open and that's why it's not working. So sometimes if you already have one open, so let me just close that, make sure it's closed. Also, when I hit back, it should close the modal. So what we'll want to do is add that functionality. So I'm going to do that really quick. So on request close modal, we're going to want to handle that. We'll actually allow someone to pass that in. So we can do a few things. We can, since this is just a modal component, we can allow the parent to pass in any of the child properties. And the way we would do that is we would have the properties for this extend the properties for a modal. So one way we can do that is we can say our image picker props are of this type, and then we could say modal. I think it's probably modal props. And so now we should be able to just pass it the on request close as well. So we can just say, yeah. And so now we have that optional property. We've extended that type. And then here we'll just call on request close. And then from our add brew screen, we will call that function to stop showing the modal. So that's here, it's our add brew screen. Set image picker modal showing. So we can just do an inline function there. We can have a separate handler. I'll just create a separate handler. So we'll say handle modal close equals. This way we don't have to have the function recreated every time. All right, we'll call set image picker modal showing to false. And this will get passed to our modal as a modal prop, which is on, I believe it was on request close. And we'll give it handle modal close. All right, so let's try that. So currently the way I get that to work on my Android app is I hit the back button. So I'll show that in a second. We'll see if that works. So I'm loading it up. I go here, navigating there. I'm going to go ahead and click add brew here. I get my pop-up, and now I'm just going to click my back button. And there, closed. Very cool. So now I want to see what's going on. So when I click this, this isn't working. You can see. So we can debug that. Let's see how we can do that. Stop remote debugging. I think that might be why it wasn't working, because I had the remote debugger open. Let's try that again. No, it doesn't look like my press is actually handling it all. Let me change that to a touchable highlight. It might be that touchable opacity has issues. So let's change that to touchable highlight. Although I feel like I've used highlight with, let's see. I feel like I've used it and it was fine, but let's just check it out. Also, we're using that. I want to actually import it from React Native. Okay, let's see. So now I'm getting touchable highlight. Okay, so I just misspelled something here. The E is out of place. Put that there. There we go. Okay, so let's see if that will actually fix it. Maybe it was just a bad import. All right, so I'm going to reload my app here so you can see that. Maybe I'll actually be able to capture this at some point. So let's see if it's loading. So to see if it's loading, what I'll do is I go here, check here, and you can see there is an issue. It's now recompiling. I'm just going to quit it and restart it to see. There we go. Now it actually compiled. So again, there's our UI. See there? I'm going to click Add Brew. I'm going to click that button there. And I got an error. It says React children only expect to receive a single React element child. The error is located at touchable highlight. So let's take a look at what's going on there. So touchable highlight expected to only receive one child, and it received two. So what I can do there is I can just wrap these in a view. Or I could probably wrap them in a fragment. I don't know if that works with native. Let's find out. I think we've used this before. Again, this is fragment syntax. I'm not sure if it's going to work in this case. I don't know if it will. Doesn't look like it. So let's just go ahead and we will render that inside a view. That'll group those together. We could probably also render our icon within the text, but I'm not totally sure, so we'll just do it this way for now. View, get rid of that, go down here, and let's put that there. It's complaining because we have to close out our tags here. All right, now it's not complaining anymore. Let's see if it will actually work. So our styling got messed up, but that's okay. But now it actually did work. So that's my hand. So let's just style it. So we had our style on our button. We can probably just move this. But what we'll actually do is, yeah, let's just move this style and see what happens. And then we can call it button content or something. But let's just see how this looks. Here, I'll show it on the simulator. So let me just close that, reopen that. So this is exactly what I do on the Android app. I go to the Expo app, it loads up and I just click, you can see our icon, I click that, pulls out the latest, it's gonna bundle it. Let's see what those buttons look like now. Cool, so they look good. And on Android here, let's see what they look like. Let's see if these are, all right. Brewbook React Native. There's our buttons, so they look good now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click this one. And there you can see it popped open our camera. All right, here's a little look around my room here. So I'll take another selfie. There we go. And now I'm gonna hit OK. It's asked me to retry, or if I hit OK, now I can crop it. So I'm gonna go ahead and crop it. I'm gonna make it square. Check that out. And then I will crop. And there's our brew. I still have to fix that button. See that button's riding up there? We'll want to put this inside a scroll view. So that's another bug we can fix. But then let me put like a test thing here. Test, testers, and the style is logger. Awesome. And we'll hit add brew. And there we go. So that's it with the camera. And then to make sure that it also works with the camera roll, interesting thing. So this didn't unmount, so now I'm clicking this and nothing's happening. That's because when we clear the form, we need to clear those values and get it to be able to reset the modal. So that modal is permanently in that state where it's actually hiding its content, so we'll want to change that. So let's figure out what's going on there. So when we hit our add brew screen, after we add our brew, we know that this modal showing is set to false when we are done adding our brew. But then we go back, we want to be able to show that modal again, so let's make sure that we're calling that. So here we set it showing to true, and it's going to remount that modal. But modal visible, it's going to set modal visible, but then inside the modal, remember it has its own state. And so if it's not getting unmounted, it might not be resetting that state. So what I mean by that is we have it set to visible down here. Remember, hide content. So we'll want to reset that. And so what we can do is we can, here when we click handle, we're saying set content hidden, handle click use camera. But we also have that hook for on request close. We can do it there. But we actually want to be able to hook into properly close the modal. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the docs and see if there's a better way to handle closing it so we don't have to deal with that kind of silliness. So let's see. We have an on dismiss. On request close. So let's see. We have hardware on dismiss. On request close callback is called when the user taps the hardware back button. Okay, so this is why it's working for Android, but we don't have it for iOS. So we need to figure out how to get it for iOS. It might just be this, but I want to see if it actually works with like clicking away. On show, presentation style, we saw. Visible, we saw that. We're actually using that, right? Visible. So it's the content that's not getting reset. So what we can do is we can call, so if we remember the handle click use camera roll, that calls this function. Let's put this over here so we can compare. So currently when we click on press use camera roll, we're calling this function here. This function checks the permissions, then calls handle image. Handle image at the end calls set image picker modal showing to false. But because in our actual image modal we're handling hiding that content because we ran into that bug, it's creating an issue. So what we can do instead is we can try getting rid of this and seeing if we can fix that bug so that we can actually have it, hide appropriately without causing issues in our async. We might need to get a hook into the layout of things to see if we can actually fix that. Another option is we can do a check on the visible prop, and when it changes, we can change our content. So what that would look like is this. We'd have a use effect. We would have a function, and the thing we are listening to is visible. And we would just do if, and we can look at the previous and the current and see if it changes. But we could also just do if modal visible, and we can do hide content. We could do set content hidden to false. So what this is saying is we're listening to modal visible. If we see the modal visible and we have hide content on, set it to false. So let's see how this is going to play out. I'm going to refresh. Pick from camera. All right. So that's good there. Let me just add this. Go back. Good. So we're good there. Let's make sure it works here as well. So I'm just going to refresh my app here. I'm going to go ahead and pick from camera. I'm just going to create another brew test. Just writing kind of nonsense right now in here in the form. You can see I just wrote in some scribbly. Clicking that. I'm going to click pick from camera as well. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this picture of a fire at a camp that I set. And I'm going to go ahead and try adding that. Good, it's added, and now I'm going to go back and see if our bug's fixed. So I should see the pop-up when I click here. Great. All right, so we fixed that using useEffect. So that's pretty cool. But now we know that the modal doesn't, it has some issues with mounting, which they called out. So there's something to pay attention to there with mounting. All right, so we almost have 10 minutes left. What we could do is we can continue styling this a bit, or we can add our next part, which would be our actual style selector and pick from some few styles, or our rating selector. But one thing I think we might want to do is fix that bug and put this inside a scroll view so that our add brew sits at the bottom of our form. Or another thing we can do is style the background of this. But really what we would like to have is the ability to dismiss this form. That's a big thing, right? Right now I can't dismiss it. And I don't know if maybe just adding the on dismiss will handle it, or if we actually have to do something. It'd be nice to, if you can click away, it would go away. And then we also kind of want to style it so this background's gray. So let's take a look at, let's first add the on dismiss and see if that does anything. So what we'll do, and one thing you can do is, see how we're taking on request close deliberately and adding it? Well, since we said that we take modal props, one thing we can do is we can just use a spread here and say, you know, other modal props. And now it doesn't matter what they take as long as we just pass it here. So we could say other modal props, because we know that they're of type modal props, so it'll allow us to do this. So this is a great use of spread so that we don't need to know in advance what all the props are that we want to handle. We can handle all the props that the modal handles. Fix that bug. Yeah, we're going to fix that bug. Okay, so let's go and see what we do here. So for this thing, we're going to go to our modal, and we're going to pass it in on dismiss and see if when that gets called, because the docs didn't really say. Let's try just calling handle modal close and see if it does anything. And I'm thinking maybe when I click away, it'll just be able to dismiss. Let's see. So no, we need to actually dismiss it. And I don't think iOS, sometimes sliding back does it, but since there's no back button in iOS, we'll have to either add a close button or see if we can dismiss it when we touch a different area of the page, like over here. So let's see. We have, once the modal has been dismissed, on request close, on show, presentation style we saw already, status bar translucent. So nothing really too useful here. Got the animation type. So we can add a close button. That would be the easiest thing to do. Top level navigator. Yeah, so we could have put this in a navigator in React Navigation, and that would give us the swipe to go back and like the ability to close on different button clicks. We might want to do that, but this is pretty simple. So what we're going to do for now is we'll just add a nice close button. And we can just put it at the top as like an X, or we could have it right to the side or something. We'll just maybe do that for now. Just put it at the top or have like a little close button at the bottom just to see what that looks like. So for that, what we'll do is in our image picker modal. Oh, what is happening there? Save that. Other modal props, that's good. Rest element is last element. That's correct. It should be, it is. I think it just wants me not to put a comma there, which is interesting. Interesting choice. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a close button. So for now, we'll just put it to the right, absolutely positioned as an X or something. Add another button here. We don't need text. We'll change this to close. Although we can check our directory and see what we got. Where is our directory? All right, let's check close. Pull this one in. This should be good. Wait, that's ant design. We don't want that. We want this close circle. There we go. Copy that, and let's put that here. $32. Okay. The code toad. All right, so now we got close circle, and what that's going to do is on click of that, we're going to close the modal. So basically, we will call our onRequestClose function. So for that, what we'll do is actually what we want to do for this one is we want to make sure that this is closed. We want to make sure this is explicitly called. So what we're going to do is actually instead of, we're going to make it explicit because by modal props, it's not required. If you look, modal props has it as a optional because it has a question mark. We want it to be not required. We want it to be required. So we're going to say onRequestClose. We're going to actually specify it. And we can say, so one thing we can do is we can look at our modal props. If I just pull it in here, we can see what it is. I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to make it required. So that hence there's no question mark here. So I'm saying that in this case, it is actually required. And so it's got to be of that type. All right. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to just call it without having to do a check because we know that we want to have it. So basically on press of this, I can just call onRequestClose because that's all we want to do when we close it. It's pretty straightforward. And so this is taking the style button. We don't really want it to do that. We're going to give it its own style. And we'll call it styles.closeButton. And we'll create a style for that down here. And so this is going to be position absolute. And we'll just do something like, I don't know, right 10. We'll obviously change it. I don't know where that's going to put it. Let's just see what it looks like. All right. So put it there because I got to do this. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. I just need to move it to about 24. Yeah. And now if I click it, it closed. It looks silly because it just goes like black, but I guess all my buttons are currently doing that. So that's okay. I just want to see something. It's because we don't have a background color on it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a background color on it. I think that's what it is. It's probably because there's no view. Like in the other one, there's a view behind it. That's why it gets that nice gray. If you notice that, when I click this, there's the nice gray. But when I click, see, you can kind of see it actually has that little, we don't want that. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just leave it for now. But basically now we have the ability to dismiss it, which is good. I don't know how small it's going to be on your thumb. The design for this, again, probably won't stick. Doze boy, what up? It's lit. Yeah. Thanks for hopping in. We added this functionality. Unfortunately, this doesn't work from the simulator, the camera option. I wish it did. Be cool if it opened up, if it had a hook into my actual camera, but no, that's not the case. So let's see what it does on web, because we haven't checked web in a while. And I always like to see what happens on web, and then we can call it a night. So on web, let's refresh this. Oh wait, this is my debugger. Here's my web. Let's close that. Let's see what happens. So remember, the modal behaved differently on web, and already we have something here. So there's already some bug with the native, and it looks like something we could easily solve, so not too worried. Touchable highlight component. We probably also just need to re-render this whole thing. So let's do this really quick, and then we'll call it a night after this. I think we made some good progress with the camera API, so I'm pretty happy about that. All right, so there's our huge UI. Okay, so there definitely is a bug here. So we will have to check out what it could be. Looks like it's an issue with touchable highlight. Must either be a native or forward set native props to a native component. Interesting. So probably has to do with that touchable highlight button in our image picker modal. That's what it's telling us on line 48 right here. So we'll take a look at that next time. I think we made pretty good progress. We got it working on the phones and the simulator, able to pull up an image. Touchable highlight sounds like an 80s band name. Yeah, it does. Sounds like there's also touchable opacity, which sounds like a modern, maybe like a modern synth folk jazz band. Dismiss that bitch. Hell yeah. Sorry that doze. Sorry we couldn't go any longer. It's 11 though. This is where we're gonna call it. So just to look back at what we added today, to our add brew screen, we added the ability to pull from your picture, or from your, you can pull it from your camera roll or take a picture. And now you can add that here. I think next time what we'll do is we'll add to that form a little bit, and then we'll probably wrap up either next session or maybe one more. Let's see how far we want to go with this, because I think it'd be fun to get into some of the more one-off sessions. Toad code, too late to chill, never too late. We're going to post on YouTube. If you want to watch it, check it out there. Thanks, Clam, for spamming the code Toad in the chat. I'm liking that Toad code. So, yeah, thanks for hanging around. Again, we're going to get into some more one-off stuff later. We'll probably do, I think the first session is using Gatsby.js to build a basic portfolio site. Gatsby is really awesome. If you haven't used it, check it out. We'll check it out together. We also plan on doing a session on writing a memwise function, and also it's probably not going to take long, so some other common functions that we use, we're kind of writing them from scratch, seeing how that works. And then, yeah, potentially getting into more stuff from there. I have a whole list of things I want to try out, kind of like some one-off sessions, but we'll continue with this next session, maybe end the series by just cleaning it up, doing some styling. There's not too much work left to do from what we planned. It's mostly just styling stuff, so we'll probably jump into that. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. Again, I got my Twitter and my GitHub there. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. It's greatly appreciated. You can hit up the GitHub. The repository is Brewbook React Native, which is posted on the description for this video, as well as the description for the videos I will be posting on YouTube. My YouTube name is not listed there, but it is the same. I have all of the series parts on there if you want to follow through. But yeah, I'll catch you next Tuesday. Again, schedule is 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Appreciate it. Clam Watson, thanks. Doze for hanging out. We had Pacao jump in. We had Noah jump in, so appreciate that. I'll catch you all on Valorant, probably. But, yeah, thanks again, everybody. Have a good night.